goes down to Isaac.
Yeah, it does. It goes on down.
Mayor.
Thank you for this new year that you've given us, Lord, to enjoy. God, we're looking forward to what you have in store for us. We just thank you for the blessings that you've given us. Lord, we recognize that all blessings come from you. All good things come from you. Father, we just ask that your blessing would be upon this meeting tonight from our council. Lord, just guide and direct by your Spirit. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call.
Alley.
Here.
Goff.
Here.
Greer.
Here.
Guston.
Here.
Crosskoff.
Here.
Lee. Here. Torrance.
Here.
All present. Next item, reading and correcting of the journal.
I move we suspend the rules and dispense with the reading and correcting of the journal.
Second. Has been moved by Councilman Crosskoff, second by Councilman Goff, to suspend the rules and the reading and correcting of the journal. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communications?
Phyllis.
Okay, I'd like to report on our Civic Center. For the month of December, 414 people used the center. She held 24 parties and returned $576.78 back to the city. For the year of 2011, 5,344 people used our center, and they was able to return $4,525.74 back to the city. Pretty fair good year, I think. Pretty fair year.
Sounds good. That it? Okay. Mr. Gornto, front and center, please.
You might want to turn the microphone on. I don't know if I flipped the switch.
It's okay.
Commercial permits issued last month was 1, building complaints 2, code enforcement complaints 1, meetings with the building department 12, zoning meetings 7, electrical residential permits 3, new rehab or residentials 1, and roofing permits 7.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of things to bring for discussion. Well, let me go to 2 points just of information for you. First one, I'd like to introduce Steve Hoover. He is the new police chief. He started January 1st, 2012. Steve, if you'd stand, please. So everyone here would know who he is. Steve will do a great job, and I think most of you read that his assistant chief will be Joni Kennedy. So, second item, January 23rd at 7 p.m. will be the State of the City address. So, Sarah, if you can put that in the paper then. It's January 23rd, 7 p.m. Okay, and the last thing I have was talking with Mark Demchek from the YMCA about a program called Complete Streets. And Mark is here. And Mark, if you'd like to come up to the microphone and explain a few things from your perspective on this, but Mark and I did sit in on a conference call explaining what Complete Streets are all about. You do get more points when you look for grants if you do or if you pass a resolution or an ordinance stating that you do follow or adopt the Complete Street program, and so we are looking into that. And Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask you tonight to appoint a committee to the Complete Street Committee to work with myself and Mr. Demchek to look further into this program to see if there's something we'd like to partake in. So with that, Mr. Demchek will fill you in on more detail.
I'll give you a quick thumbnail sketch. Complete Streets is something that has been developed in a lot of communities, big and small, across the country. I became aware of it when I was previously the director of the Kendallville YMCA through a program called Pioneering Healthy Communities, which is another national grant program. It is an engineering policy package, for lack of a better description, that usually comes in the form of a municipality's ordinance. It could be city, it could be county. I suppose you could have a complete street state level if you wanted one. I don't know of anyone that's done that. The idea is that by ordinance you are asking for a review of any new construction of roads within your jurisdiction, or any upgrade or construction or repair of roads That when you do that, you look and see if it matches what's known as the complete streets pattern, which would allow for things like bicycle transportation, sidewalks for pedestrians. In some communities where you have an active transit system, a bus system or something like that, you'd have, there's clarifications for that. It is simply an ordinance, and what we would look at as an ordinance, what most communities have done, as an ordinance that says, step one, when we go into a new project or an existing road repair, we look at it from a complete streets perspective. Step two, if it meets those criteria, we go forward with complete streets as funding allows. In short, it just gets complete streets on the map when you look at road improvements. The idea is that if we offer more opportunities for people to walk, bike, or otherwise be active when they get from one place to another, it gives them a better chance to have physical activity. I was just actually today I got sent a neat little YouTube video about the benefits of moderate exercise, 30 minutes a day, and all the different things that it helps you from a health-wise perspective. But if our residents don't have a way to be active, or they can't have a sidewalk to walk on, or there's no place to ride their bikes, then they don't have a chance to make that choice at all. That's the basics of it. I am not an expert in it by any means. We connected with the State Department of Health and some folks that have helped municipalities put these ordinances into place, and we have a number of models to look at, both in Indiana and from other communities across the country. So, just what kind of questions can I ask, or can I answer for you?
The only time that the complete streets format is used is if it's new construction or redoing a street. Is that correct?
That's correct. In most municipalities, the neat thing about this is it just gives you an engineering or an ordinance level to look at. You can make it anything we want it to be. So it allows us some customization to this community, to its unique needs for transportation. And so really, the committee that Mayor Walker and I were talking about would be the one that kind of go through all the details of that and figure out what's going to fit best for here. But essentially, it looks at anything that's going to be new. So if you're putting in a new road, extension Washington Street, I think is one of the areas we were talking about. Or if you're just simply rebuilding a road that needs it, you take a look at options to add a bike lane if there's not one there, add sidewalks if there aren't sidewalks there. It all comes back down to, first, what's safe. There are definitely some streets in Peru that aren't wide enough to do that, and it wouldn't lock you into doing anything like that. We just ask that the city planners, the engineers, whoever working on the project will take a look at active transportation.
Any other questions? Someone have a cell phone laying near their microphone? That's what's, yeah.
Now we know.
No, wasn't mine. Any questions on this? Like I said, we're just looking into getting more detail. We're not asking for a definitive answer tonight, just detail. So, we have any questions from the audience? Or okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that we appoint at least 2 people to serve on this committee with us as we get more detail to bring back to the full council to make whether we bring an ordinance back to the council or just more information on a timely basis, whatever. But we do need some input from the city council.
Okay. I will ask for volunteers first. Maybe. Gabe?
Yeah, I'd like to be on it.
He just started. He's
I was
already
gonna
raising
say,
his
boy,
hand.
isn't it nice to have these newbies on?
He hasn't learned.
Yeah.
Get them while they're green. Okay. And Tom, we have 2.
Okay,
Is that enough?
okay.
Is that enough?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
And so contact information, Mark will sit down and get a schedule and have some meetings, and then we'll forward that information out to them.
All right.
Okay? All right. We'll
Thank
let the
you.
record show that these 2 will be doing that. And Gabe, thanks for jumping right in there. And again, welcome to the city council. I know it's your first meeting.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I have nothing else under communications.
Okay.
Okay. Anything under unfinished business that anyone has? Seeing none. Under new, ordinance number 1, 2012.
An ordinance to vacate a public alley in the city of Peru.
I move number 1, 2012.
Second.
Second.
It was moved by Councilman Crosshaw, second by Councilman Alley, to consider ordinance number 1, 2012. Roll call.
Alley,
Yes.
Goff,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
Guston,
Yes.
Crosskoff,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Torrance.
Yes.
I move we adopt ordinance number 1, 2012.
Second.
Is that you, Tom? Yeah. It's been moved by Councilman Crosshaw, second by Councilman Guston, to adopt ordinance number 1, 2012. Questions? Mr. Gornto.
The reason I did that, this is a little different than what we normally do on closing alleys. This is an east-west alley, and we're asking to close the west 160 feet of that alley. If you look at the first picture, you'll see all them tree stumps in there.
Nice alley.
Right
Yeah.
in the middle of the alley. The tree's been cut down. At the east end of the alley in front of Mr. Faust's house, there's a dead-end sign on the alley put up by the county, so that tells you can't go clean through that alley. So Mr. Ashley, his property is right to the west of that tree stump there.
Bill, let me interrupt you. They know it's outside the city limits, but it
Yeah,
was
it's in the,
just
it's
within
in
the
our
zoning
two-mile
district.
jurisdiction.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, is it outside the city limits?
Yes.
or-
Yes.
This is on the other side of Duke Street,
Right, so that's outside the city limits.
but it's still in your zoning
Still in our
jurisdiction.
zoning.
Yeah.
Comes under
Okay,
our
thank
zoning
you.
ordinance.
Okay.
So he's asking to close that 160-foot section of alley because he wants to build an addition on his south side of his house, and he needs the alley closed, so it gives him setback property. So he can meet the requirements to put a new garage and a bedroom on his house. The neighbor south of that has agreed to sell him their half of the alley, so he'll pick up an extra 15 feet of property. And Mr. Ashley is here tonight if you have any questions for him.
Is the shed that's sitting there, is that in the alley?
Yes.
That shed is, how long has that shed been there?
6 years or better. We've lived there 7 or 8, 9 years, and a couple years into it, we needed extra space for lawnmowers and stuff, and when I first moved there, we were told that it's been closed. Being younger, I didn't check on, just took their word for it. In the recent months, I've had my property surveyed and found out that it is technically an alley, so I'm like, uh-oh, I need to get something done with this. So I talked to Mr. Tom Harp about how far I gotta be from property lines and my garage and drywall, and I know I gotta do all that, so I can meet all the requirements of there. But in order for me to put a 2-car garage from the south part of my house, it would currently go right up against the alley, which I cannot do. If I get the alley, then I can put the 2-car garage on there and be under laws, regulations, whatever it is, that codes, I would meet everything. I really only want my 4 lots that I own, the 160 feet, for the fact that there is a gentleman that nobody really uses the alley. A gentleman actually uses it as a driveway more than anything, because that's the only way he can get to his home. So I really want to leave that part of it open so that he can't have access it, and nobody, it doesn't hurt anybody else.
Is the 160 feet right to where the shed is? Is that,
For the most part, yes.
or is it beyond, is it east of the shed?
It's probably from maybe here to you from the eastern part of my shed, me to you, and then the property line, for the most part.
But it's not being used now as an alley?
No, and right behind my shed to the east of that is a tree stump that's been cut down, I don't know how many years ago, and it's
This is right behind his shed.
yay big around.
That's this one right here, yeah.
Yeah.
About 7 or 8 clusters to it, something like
Yes.
that, yeah.
And I've had estimates 2 or 3 times to get it taken out of $300, $400, $500, and financially, we just couldn't do it at the time, so.
When you came before the zoning board, which it passed to the zoning. We had no problem with it. And there was some questions back and forth with you and another neighbor
Yes, ma'am.
about who was going to remove these tree stumps.
That issue has, oh, sorry.
Have you settled that with him?
I have, yes, ma'am. I actually have typed up just an agreement that any neighbor, not just him, but any neighbors that would like to pass through there, whether it be walking, driving their car, and I have signed it. I can get it notarized, whatever I need to do, but he is okay with that.
It's okay now.
With the understanding that there's not major tire ruts, like going out there and digging down into them. If it's just normal back and forth once a week or so, it's not a problem for me. And that's what I told him in the meeting that night. And so I went ahead and typed this up and signed it and dated it, and he was happy with that.
So you're not actually building on the area where the alley is, you just need it for setback purposes?
That is correct, because I still need to have an easement through there so the utilities can get there, because I do have power lines there.
Okay, okay.
And another neighbor lady, she said that she would sell her half to you, right?
Yes, Miss Vivian Townsend to my
Yeah.
south, she owns the same exact 160 feet that I do. Obviously, her half would go to her. She doesn't want to pay the
Yeah.
property difference, and she was more than happy to pay that or sell that to me. And she has no problems with that.
Anybody have any further questions for Mr. Ashley?
Only that I did receive a call concerning that from one of your neighbors, and it sounds like that particular neighbor is the one you've worked it out with.
I would only assume so. I'm not for sure who you spoke with, but
Okay.
when we came here,
I know he
3 weeks
lives
ago-
on the other corner from you.
Yes, Mr. Lennon was
Okay,
here, and he had, didn't want it closed. We have since, he's the reason that I have typed this up and signed it, and he is okay with that.
So the stump will remain until somebody takes it out?
Well, obviously, I'm not gonna pay for it because it's in an alley. But if I get it, then I'll be more than happy to take it out. That's not a
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
If the property becomes mine,
Then, yeah.
I will be more than happy to
Right.
remove that, so that way, whoever needs to go through there for whatever reason may do so.
Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Sure can now.
Any further questions from anybody? We're ready.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Or any remonstrators? Seeing none, roll call.
Ally,
Yes.
Goff,
Yes.
Greer,
Yes.
Guston,
Yes.
Crosskoff,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Torrance.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, resolution number 1, 2012.
A resolution establishing rate for the municipal electric utility of the city of Prue, Indiana.
I move we adopt resolution number 1, 2012.
Moved by Councilman Crosskoff, second by Councilwoman Torrance to adopt Resolution 1, 2012. Questions? Mr. Merriman? On this tracker, I know 6 of you have heard Roger discuss tracker before, but since this is Gabe's first meeting, I'd like for him to take the time to kind of explain that so Gabe understands what it is. So it may be repetitious to you, but it'd be valuable to Gabe, so.
Am I still limited to 4 minutes?
3:45.
I used half of it, so you're down to 2.
Cliff notes, please, version.
Okay, the condensed version. Basically, in our electric rate, there's several different components to it. The major one is what we pay the Indiana Municipal Power Agency for wholesale electricity. And that, once that's in the rate, once the rate is passed, that number's fixed. So to the extent that we pay something different than what's included in the base rate for wholesale power, this tracker provides a mechanism whereby we can, if we've paid less than the amount that was in the base rate, we basically then we've over-collected and we return some money to the ratepayer. In the event that we're actually paying more money for wholesale power than what's included in the base rate, then we can adjust the rate to recover that. our wholesale power costs are a straight pass-through to the customer. There's no markup or anything like that on it, so it's a straight pass-through. So we make that adjustment every quarter. So every 3 months, we do a calculation to see how much we've either under-collected or over-collected, and then we set this tracking factor accordingly. And what you can see here from the resolution is that the actual amount we're paying for wholesale power is about 2 cents more on average than what's included in the base rate. Okay? So for this particular tracker, and this will be effective for the first quarter of 2012, what the tracker, there's an increase of less than 1/10 of 1 cent overall. So it's a very minimal increase, and that was due primarily to the fact that in September, our wholesale power costs were higher than normal because of what we had a poor load factor. If you remember back in September, the first part of the month was extremely hot. We had some 90-degree days. We set our peak in the first couple of days of September. Then the rest of September was very mild, and so we didn't have a whole lot of kilowatt-hour sales. And so, but we had a very high demand charge. So when you combine the two, our actual on a cost per kilowatt-hour basis, we paid about 7.7 cents for wholesale power, and usually we average around 6.3 or 6.4. So that's the reason that this tracker is increasing ever so slightly. Prior to, the reason City Council is now approving these trackers is that once we were successful in withdrawing the electric and water utilities from the jurisdiction of the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, then it became necessary for City Council to approve these trackers. In the past, we would submit this to the IURC and they would approve it. So once we did away with the commission, then it fell to the responsibility of City Council to do this. So that's the reason you get to do it.
And we'll be doing this every quarter, I assume?
Every quarter. Yep.
Okay, so we get to see your smiling face 4 times a year?
Oh, me or someone.
Okay. And obviously this was prepared exactly the same as it's been in the past for the
Yes.
IURC?
We go through the exact same process that we did when we submitted these trackers to the IURC. Yep.
So for the next quarter, the rate will go up about 1/10 of 1 cent, you said?
Less than 1/10
Less
of
than
1
one
cent,
point.
on average.
0.886.
Yeah.
Yeah, 0.008, okay.
Yeah.
That's not a whole lot.
No.
No.
How long did it take the Regulatory Commission to approve your trackers?
Oh, they were usually pretty good about that. We could have it back in a month or so. We never did get one rejected. We've been doing it for so long, and our staff is really, really good at it. But nonetheless, there was some delay.
So if we approve this tonight, though, it'll be effective.
It'll be effective with consumption for starting in January.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Seeing,
Alley,
Yes.
Goff.
Yes?
Greer,
Yes.
Guston.
Yes.
Crosskoff,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Torrance.
Yes.
motion carries. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn the next part of the meeting over to you, since this is the first meeting of a new year, and we do have council appointments to make. I'll turn it over to you for the list. You have your list before you of all the...
I do.
Okay.
I do. I guess the first one is the President Pro Tem for the upcoming 2012. My term is up, and I will, if anybody wants to volunteer or anybody wants to make a motion to nominate somebody, we can accept that now.
Well, I personally think you do a good job.
I make a motion to keep Kurt as President Pro Tem.
I second that.
I don't get a vote in this, I suppose I can.
No.
Not really.
Okay, are there any other nominations? All right, nominations are closed. All those in favor of reappointing myself as President Pro Tem for the upcoming year? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I thank you, I guess. The
That was warm.
That was. Mitt Romney, I'm not. Or Newt Gingrich, I'm not. Okay. Okay. Before you is the list of council appointments that we have had for 2011. If you'll notice, Brian's name is on there, and he was on 4 committees. I guess we can go down and look. City officials liaison. Could you explain that one a little bit to us?
Well, just say you need
Yep.
the vice president.
The Vice President.
Okay, well, we can have a vice president pro tem, I
Yeah.
suppose. We,
I nominate Phyllis.
Second?
all right, it's been moved and seconded for Phyllis to fill the vice president pro tem. Do I have any other nominations? Okay, the nominations are closed. All those in favor of Phyllis Torrance for the 2012 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Called
Okay,
draft day.
congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
We're gonna do thick
Thank you,
ones
guys.
Okay, now, we have 4 spots that were previously filled by Brian, which are open right now. Question was asked me about the city officials liaison. Can you explain what that?
Yeah, that is if there are any questions about any of the city officials.
City officials being whom?
The elected officials, it could be some of the department heads if you wanted to talk with them. It's
Okay.
mainly the elected city official, be like myself, Jackie, the judge, if you had any questions from that standpoint. Any of those that they would need to go to get answers that you feel maybe you're not getting that information, you would go to those city officials. It could also include some of the department heads that are appointed.
Oh, so it's a liaison from here up to another official? Okay, to ask questions, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Gabe, do you want to volunteer for that?
Yeah, I'll do that.
How about the other ones that are on there from Brian? We can make this short
To
and
make this
sweet.
real short and sweet.
There were
I-
4. There were
Yeah.
city officials, there was dog pound, there was fire department, and there was tax abatement
Tax
review.
abatement.
Yeah.
Like that?
I would be glad to serve on any of those. I did have a question about one other one, the
Sure.
Local Historic Preservation Committee. Is that still in operation?
Cheryl, Steve, and Tom, that's still in operation? Local Historic
Yeah.
Preservation Committee? Have you met for a while?
No.
No.
Been quite
we
some
haven't.
time.
Okay.
I say, if that was an active committee, I wouldn't mind being on that. I like history, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with.
Well, we can't have 4 because then that makes you can't have 4 at
Yeah.
one
Three is
time
the
because then that
Yeah.
violates the open door law. So does anybody wish to step off of that committee to allow Gabe to fill their spot?
I can do that.
Okay. Scratch Goff,
Steve?
add Greer.
Uh,
Yes,
Like a
ma'am.
coach.
Okay. Being the chairperson of the Tax Abatement Committee, anybody that wants to serve on that,
Oh, that's right.
you have to be available. And, I
During the
mean.
day.
During the day.
Day, okay.
During the day. And, I always give people a call. We try to work together, to give you time. And I've always liked the mayor present when we do work. And so be sure you got the time and that you're able to make this commitment.
That's once a month.
Well, whenever we
Depends.
need it, it could be more than that.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, if my schedule's flexible enough, I think I can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Anytime.
Does anybody wish to be removed or to step down from any of their appointments for the previous year? Does anybody want to?
Do what?
Nothing. I wasn't going to say it. Just- Is everybody comfortable with the positions that they're in?
Mr. Chairman, I would, on the city ordinance review, I would ask that in the upcoming year, we go through there. I know we did some changes on quite a few of them, but we have a lot of outdated ordinances that need to be brought before you for a final vote. We have stuff in there from 1913, 1917. Things have changed a little bit in the last 100 years, and I don't think we can allow cows to walk on the streets. Is not something that's particularly effective in 2012. So I would say if we can get the city ordinance review team to get together and start going through there again and updating the ordinance, because some of them are, like I say, outdated, and they may just need, if completely remove them if they're not necessary, or just, amend them to update them to make them more to 2012 standard.
Well, it'll be spring soon, so hopefully some cleaning of the city ordinances, right?
There you go.
Okay.
Well, it's going to take some time. As you know, there are quite a few ordinances in there, but
Yeah.
a lot of those do need to be looked at.
Well, I'd like to, being on this in the past, along with Cheryl and Tom, we went through them. And when we do this and take the time to do these and bring them up, I'd like to see, and I mean, I'd like to have them enforced, which they have not been. A lot of them have not been. And that's one, a big concern that I have about this, and I think it's long overdue. Tom, anything?
I'm with you.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we need a
Yeah.
motion to accept the slate? Okay, I will accept a motion to accept the 2012 Common Council appointments as presented before you.
So moved.
Moved.
Been moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. It's been moved and seconded to accept the 2012 Common Council appointments as presented before you as amended. Any discussion? All's in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
We have anything else to come before the council? Questions from the audience? Okay. Well, Gabe, what's your assessment after your first meeting? Wasn't too bad, was it?
No, not too painful.
Just wait. Okay, if there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We're adjourned.